Hi everyone, it's Becky here. So welcome to another new video on my YouTube channel, and this is actually my previous sketchbook that I finished around early October. Okay, and so I'm gonna do a full sketchbook tour of this sketchbook at the end of the year, along with about 5 of my other sketchbooks that I filled up this year in 2022. So I'm gonna give you like a quick idea of what I do. So I sketch almost like every single day of my surroundings. A lot of urban sketches around Montreal these days because right now I'm taking like a 6 months long vacation here in Montreal. So I like to explore the different areas around the city. A lot of cafe sketches, urban sketches. So these ones is what I do. And the materials that I use are very simple. So I use one watercolor palette, okay, yeah, and 1 or 2 fine liner pens and 2 water brushes to do these sketches because I wanted to create a really spontaneous habit of creating very often. I need to keep my materials very simple. Okay, so I could pick them up anytime to start a sketch, anytime, anywhere, inside or outside the home. So I did some of these pages with my Saturday and Sunday sketch classes live on Zoom. For example, this one was an urban sketching session. And this one was done for a home life sketching session. So I teach these sketching classes live on Zoom every Saturday and Sunday. So if you're interested, you can check out the link in the description part of this video. And in today's video, I want to show you how I drew and painted this little sketch that I did after lunch in a cafe around Plateau Mont Royal area. It's a pretty fun and relaxing sketch. Now let's go. So this autumn, we're having a lot of warm, sunny days in Montreal. The temperature is a little bit unusually high. And yeah, so Mount Royal is in the distance, it's looking a little hazy. And here's the view outside the cafe window. It's not a perfect view, but it's still, I love the colors and a bit of perspective there. So I ordered a cup of latte and cheese bread. So I'm gonna sketch the view outside the window right behind these 2 items to create an overlapping composition. That's my typical way of composing an art journal page. And I'm using my dark sepia Faber-Castel brand drawing pen, just drawing a frame so it creates a nice sense of a window effect. So I'd like to take about a minute or 2 to think about the composition and using my hand gestures to kind of show where everything should lay on a blank space. So I'm beginning with this electricity pole or traffic sign pole. I don't want to put it right in the middle of this frame because that would make this picture look way too static. It's interesting to put, an object like this that's pretty big and tall somewhere a little bit to the left or a little bit to the right, depending on the situation. So after that, I'm drawing the building, the corner building on the right-hand side, the upper floor, and the window frame, bit of hatching to show shade inside the frame. Yes, it's just always helpful to start drawing a major element like that electricity pole. And so I know the gap in between the pole and the building, which is pretty narrow. And now I'm gradually building up the first floor of this building with some more display window frames in big and small rectangles and squares. Adding some accentuation around the inner frame area and loose lines to show the folds of curtains inside. I also added a little person passing by to show the proportion of the building even better. And loosely adding these brick patterns with gentle pressure. Switching to my light brown Faber-Castel fine liner pen to draw these brick patterns. So this building is very straightforward to draw because I'm looking right onto its front. There's no perspective, its shape is not being distorted by perspective, so just two large chunks of rectangles with details of window frames inside. Okay, so now that's pretty much it for this, the corner building's details, and adding some smaller details like this cluster of foliages in between the pole and this building. So it's all about finding the sizes in relationship with other objects around it. This is the way that I build up any sketch. And using looser lines to draw the other traffic signs underneath the foliages. Yeah, there's actually another bit of foliages behind. It's looking a little shorter because of perspective. And now I'm starting to draw the building on the other side. Now this one has a bit of perspective. As you can see, the rooftop line is going down towards the right. And adding this tree, covering most of this row of buildings. And after that, I'm adding details underneath the tree. There's actually another bit of bush. And moving on to draw the small details around the rooftop area, those attic rooftops and windows, which are pretty small. Yeah, and now I'm just drawing these windows in between the two masses of foliages. Just trying my best. All of these windows are like kind of like sinking down towards the right because of perspective. Yeah, just drawing the basic thin rectangular shapes of these windows and just fill in the details with frames and a bit of dark brown ink. Some more windows and windowsills. And now, because these two windows are kind of below my eye level, they're actually going upwards towards the right. And adding this cat mural on the left side on the wall, adding the bottom of the foliage texture there. And adding some final polish, and this wire really helps to show perspective. These two wires, very important two lines that helps with the 3 dimension in this little urban sketch. Yeah, and just keep having fun with my 2 brown fine liner pen. This one is like a light brown fine liner pen. I'm using this to draw the brick pattern on the buildings. Yeah, it's always good to try a little bit different mediums. So I always like to draw with black fine liner pen. So yeah, so now it's fun to draw with 2 kinds of brown fine liner pens. Accentuation is pretty important. For example, like coloring in some of the window shapes with solid brown ink to create a sense of dimension, a sense of depth for those houses. And yeah, that's it. Now I'm ready to paint watercolors. Here is the look of my finished line drawing. So I know when I feel that there's enough details that I captured, I just stop drawing and move on to watercolors. As always, I like to paint the sky first. So I just wet the sky with clear water and adding this fresh layer of cerulean blue. So this cerulean blue is further diluted by the wet paper surface because the sky is actually a translucent kind of blue, especially around the middle part and lower part of the sky. There's a slight bit of gradients. And that's it for the sky. I never work on the sky. I like to keep a little bit of brush marks for the sky areas to show the turbulence of air in the sky. The sky is never just flat and static. It's always dynamic and moving with air. And now I'm adding the first layer for these buildings, the warm orange brown. So I just simply mix orange with burnt sienna to show the color of these buildings on a bright sunny day. It's a very nice color scheme. It's also a very nice contrasting color with the blue sky. warm color underneath and the cold blue above in the sky. So very nice color scheme overall, nice balance of colors. And also this building contains a little bit more orange and less ratios of brown. So they're in slight different yellow brown and orange brown tones. I'm also controlling the intensity of these tones by adding more or less water. And just make sure I fill in pretty much all of these building areas that I see behind these foliages. Yeah, so now I'm just using the bit of leftover gray in my palette. So I mix my own gray with a trio of colors, blue, green, and magenta, and dilute that with a lot of water around the little rooftop areas, here and there. And now I'm ready to add on the first layer of color for the foliages. This is pretty much the mixture of lime green and a little bit of orange, mostly lime green. Because these are the foliages in autumn, I'm not mixing lemon yellow into the green, but I'm mixing orange into the green instead, because these trees are turning orange. There should be a bit of lively orangey color within the fresh green. So it's a different color scheme compared to spring and summer. Yeah, so that's the first layer. And I'm also keeping these choppy brush strokes to show the 3 dimension of these trees. It's okay to have brush strokes, especially for trees, because we want us to show the leaves popping out from the 3-dimensional form. And adding on the second layer, Viridian green, again using choppy brush strokes to give an illusion of the leaves. Yeah, and same for this tree. I'm also mixing in a little bit brown or burnt sienna into Viridian green or sap green to deepen this green tone. Every single brush stroke can be of a slightly different shape and slightly different tone with more or less water. So in general, if we want to show the 3 dimension of trees, so trees are actually distorted spheres, okay? So we need to have at least 2 tones of greens, starting with the lightest tone and another layer of darker tone on top. And make sure not to overpaint. We need to preserve some of the fresh green from the first layer to let it shine, to really letting the contrast show, the 3 dimension to show. Yeah, and keep adding some leftover grays for these windows. These windows are pretty much in shade because we have the trees in front of them. Adding some accentuation around the rooftop area, those darker brown bars. And for the pole here, tiny bit of shade on the right side because the sunshine, I think it comes from the left. Yeah, and I just added a bit of 3 dimension for the bush right here on the bottom left corner, a bit of shadow on the street. And now moving on to the last part is to paint this corner building. So I just wet the area with clear water, adding a bit of diluted yellow-orange. The color of this building is pretty bright, facing the sunshine directly. Raw umber for the top bar on the roof. And for this bar here, in between the first and second floor, yeah, a little shade inside the window frame, in between the curtain folds. Yeah, using the very tip of my brush to paint those smaller details. And again, using leftover gray to paint inside the window, but still leaving a bit of shine on the left for the window there. adding a bit of orange brown and using these short little brush strokes to show the different, slightly different pieces of bricks. Yeah, so these bricks are actually in slightly different orange-brown tones. And now punching on a darker tone. Yeah, just keep it really loose. We don't have to make it look exactly the same as the building there. So try to see the pattern and just punch it in. And so one advice for any beginner painters is to not be afraid of making brushstrokes. For some objects, for example, trees and maybe a brick building, is pretty important to show our brushstrokes, to show the reliefs of the leaves and the bricks. Yeah, so we don't have to flatten our brushstrokes all the time. And now I'm adding some grays in between the foliages on the buildings, just like a glazing color. And a little gray for the wires. That's it. So here's the look of my finished sketch. It took me about, let's see, about 25 minutes or so. Yeah, just a quick little sketch. And here's the look outside. Very busy, a lot of cyclists, people on scooters. And here is the baristas area. So thank you so much for watching my video, everyone. If you like it, please click like and leave me a comment below. Subscribe to my channel for weekly updates. So I try to update this channel two to three times a week with tutorials and sketchbook tours and life stories. I will see you again very soon next time. Have a great day, everyone.